Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, His Grace Salika Prabhu. And all glories to some of the Vaishnava devotees. Devotees, as usual, we thank you for being here today. And of course, our speaker for today needs no introduction. He's one of our own. He's our host. Salika Prabhu, if you're ready, we may put the verse on the screen and then you take it over from here. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yes, we can start.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Naraichaivam Narutamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tatu Jaya Mudiraye Nasta Apraisyu Abhadrisu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamas Loke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God and Narayan. Unto Narayan, Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam, by regular attendance in classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam and by renderings of service to the pure devotees. All that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised by transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So, today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, chapter 1. We're taking our reading from text number 14. So I read. Etishiyam tatra suyudanena pravrida kupaspurita nirina asatkrita satri aniyasila shata sakrana jasaubalina iti ushivam tatra suyudinaina pravrida kupaspurita darina asatkrita sat prianiya sila shata sakanu jasaubalina iti ushyam tatra suyodinaina pravrida upaspurita darina asatkrita sat prianiya silaha shata sakanuja saubalina. Synonyms. Iti, thus. O Shivam, while speaking. Tatra, there. Yudanina, by Duryodhan. Pravridaha, swollen with. Kopa, anger. Spuritaha, flapping. Adarina, leaves. Asakritaha, insulted. Sat, respectable. Sprianiya sila, desirable qualities. Shataha, vidura. Sa, wheat. Karna, Anujaha, younger brothers. Saubalina, with Sakuni. Translation, purport by its Divine Grace, Ilabai, Charanaravinda, A.C. Bhakti, Vedanta Swami. Patita Pavan Jaga Guru Sivdevdev Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation, while speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhan, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhan was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle, Sakuni. Purport by Zivangri Srila Prabhupada. It is said that giving good counsel to a foolish person causes the fool to become angry. Just as feeding milk to a snake only increases its venomous poison, Saint Fidura was so honorable that his character was looked up to by all respectable persons. But Duryodhan was so foolish that he dared to insult Vidura. This was due to his bad association with Sakuni, his maternal uncle, as well as with his friend Karna, who always encouraged Duryodhan in his nefarious acts. Agyanam timirandasya gyanam shalakaya shaksho militam jena tasmai shri gurave nama Sri Chaitanya manobishtam stapitam jena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Pada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsya Sri Rupa Sagrajatam Saaganam Ragunatam Tam Saajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaganam Lalita Sri Vishakavitam Shah Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopisha Kakanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangira Devindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mokam Karoti Bachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yat Kripa Tam Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Vancha Karpataru Vyascha Kripa Sundubhyas Evascha Patitanam Pavat Nebio Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Srinivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Raman, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Raman, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Raman, Hare Hare. Once again, read the translation of the text. While speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhan, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhan was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle Sakuni. Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees, I offer my respectful obeisances to all of the wonderful Vaishnavis who are assembled on this platform this evening, my local time. I offer respectful obeisance to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has incarnated as Srila Vashadev, who has given the Srimad Bhagavatam. Unto the Vaishnava Acharyas, disciplic succession coming from Lord Brahma, to our present Acharyas, I offer respectful obeisances to all living beings who are spread across the three worlds, begging for their mercy that I may be able to render this service for my purification and for the pleasure of the devotees, for ultimately of human life. It is said that one comes from the lowest level of material existence through transmigration, and one comes to human form of life and is opportune after so many births and deaths, is able to hear and speak about the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. Ultimately, Krishna, then his life becomes perfect. And as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, in the 11th canto, such a person, even though conditioned at the present, has been awarded the benediction of eternal residence in the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only separated by time. So I express deep appreciation for our dear spiritual masters, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Swami Maharaj, who by his mercy, we have had this wonderful opportunity to speak and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Today is a very unique day also because today marks the calendar day in which 19 years ago, our dear beloved spiritual master left this physical planet to take association of his eternal Lord. So it's an emotional day. So as we celebrate his departure, because a Vaishnava never laments for the departure, physical departure of a Vaishnava, because while he lives, and even when he leaves the physical world, his glories are never depreciated. So I glorify the Lord giving this opportunity today on this special occasion of the disappearance calendar day of our dear beloved spiritual master, who by his mercy we are giving this service. And I pray that at the end of this body, that will not become an embarrassment to his selfless service to his spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, whom he is very dear to, and to the Supreme Personality of Lord Krishna. If time permits, maybe later part of the discussion, we can speak a little bit about the interesting narrations about our little experience in this mortal physical body with our dear spiritual master. But today we're discussing a very interesting subject, which is Sukadev Goswami narrating to Maharaj Parikshit the subject matter of the Mahabharata. Srimad Bhagavatam in itself is glorious because it is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. But it is said that the Mahabharata, which is the narration that we're reading from the beginning of this chapter by Sukadev Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit, an episode that happens in the Mahabharata. And the Mahabharata is considered very glorious. Why? Because, in fact, it is said that anyone who is opportune in this lifetime, able to read the Mahabharata, receives the highest gift of life. Srimad Mahabharata by the Acharyas is so glorified. Why? In fact, one of our Acharyas, Baladev Vidya Bhushan, wrote a special commentary and all of the Acharyas in the Vaishnava traditions all take time to write commentary on this book. Why? Because it contains two very significant, powerful inclusions. The transcendental discourse of Lord Krishna, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Vishnu Sahasranam. Because of the two inclusion of these two in the Mahabharata, it is said to be very glorified. It is, in fact, it is said that when one puts the Srimad Bhagavad Gita on one side of a scale, and one puts the whole of the other Vedic scriptures on the other side, this book called Mahabharata will suppress the other side. That is how that's how heavy, how glorified it is, because of the content of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and this Vishnu Sahasranam that is in the Mahabharata. So one might wonder why Sukadev Goswami is narrating this aspect. In the course of the conversation, we have heard about the six subject matter. Excuse me. Ask in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But this particular narration of this chapter is so glorious because it is discussing the subject matter of the Mahabharata. And in all of the characters in the Mahabharata, the personality that we're discussing today, Vidura, is said to be one great personality. In fact, in the text, it is said that he is a personality with a character that is respectable by great personality. Why is it so? Why is the character of Vidura so glorified? As they say in a common parlance, the history of a person tells the character of a person. So when we're talking about Vidura, Vidura is such a powerful personality. And according to the story as is narrated in the Srimad Mahabharata, Vidura is one central personality, central character in the Mahabharata. And he's so respected because of his personality. And one will wonder why he's so respected. He is a son of a maidservant. Why is he so respected? So according to the Srimad Mahabharata, the story of Vidura is narrated, which gives the credence to why he's so special, and he carries the character that he embodies. Of course, generally, we all know that Vidura is the third child in the family of the Kauravas. He is the younger of the three brothers, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, who is the father of the Pandavas. So he's the third child. But why is Vidura so special? According to this Mahabharata, Vidura is not just an ordinary personality. There is a scenario that led to his taking birth in the form that he has taken. We see the character of Vidura that he was a very, very knowledgeable person. And if the advice of Vidura had been adhered to by Dhritarashtra, the whole of the battlefield of Kurukshetra wouldn't have happened. But by the circumstantial nature of fate, Dhritarashtra never listened. So there's a story that led to Vidura being the son of a maid servant. There is a story in his previous life. When we talk about Vidura, he's none other than Dharmaraj or Yamaraj. And why did Yamaraj took the body of a maid servant? There's an interesting story as narrated by Mahabharata. Of a great rishi. In the ancient days of yore, according to Mahabharata, there was a great sage by the name Mandavya. So Mandavya Muni was so religious and so powerful in austerity. And at a particular time, he took this desire to perform a greater austerity. So Mandavya Muni decided to take a vow of mourning, or Mauna Vrat, as it is called, or the vow of silence. The tongue is very powerful. And sometimes talking could be very dangerous when it does not glorify, when it is not used in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the sages, to control the urge of the tongue, sometimes take the very strict vow of Mauna, or austerity, of non-speaking, for a period of a time to gain some ascetic strength. So Mandavya Muni, he was meditating in his hermitage. And he was meditating. As he was meditating, he has taken the vow of silence. But simultaneously around that time, there are some gundas or thieves or robbers, as we call them in the modern times. They had gone to a nearby kingdom and robbed. And they were running away with their loots. And the king of the kingdom has sent his army to run after them to arrest these thieves. So the robbers, in their course of trying to run away, they got to the hermitage of Mandavya Muni. And because he's a saintly person, they took it that the army will not disturb his meditation. So they ran into his hermitage. And they hid themselves and their loot in his hermitage. So the army was running after them, and when he got to that point, when they get to that point, they saw the sage in a meditation, taking the vow of silence. And they call his attention. Hey, Muni, have you seen some robbers running past through this side with some loots in their hands? And because Mandavya Muni was meditating and he has taken a vow of silence, he could not answer their question. And the army, being ignorant for who they are, they decided this man may be pretending. Maybe he's one of the thieves. He's one of the robbers. Let us check his hermitage. And as fate will have it, when they get into his hermitage, they found all of the looted items. Along with that, they saw the robbers who have stolen. And they said, this person must be one of them. He's only pretending so that he can dissuade us. So they decided to arrest the robbers alongside their loots, and they arrested Mandavyamuni. And then they took them to the kingdom of the king, as it was in that time. And when the king looked at them, well, because they have stolen and they have the evidence of what they have stolen in their hands. So the sage, the king, passed his judgment. Because they have stolen and they have been caught with the loot in their hands. So we'll give them the capital punishment. And the king passed a judgment that these three thieves should be killed by using a sharp arrow. It is a kind of a punishment in those days where people who deserve such a capital punishment appears with a sharp arrow that passes through their body to kill. So Mandavyamuni, although he was not part of those thieves, of course, his vow of silence was broken, because when the death pronouncement was made upon him, he had to defend himself. I'm not part of this, but nobody listened to his statement. So the three of them were punished in this way. Mandavyamuni, along with his supposedly members of stealing. So they were hanged. But immediately the two robbers died. But Mandavyamuni, because of his ascetic powers, was not killed. And when the king's men, when they saw the situation, because nobody survives that kind of a punishment and not die immediately, so decided to run back to the king and request the king had that third person among the thieves was not dying, even though we have pierced the arrow through his body, and he's not dying. And then when they told that to the king, and not only that he did not die, he was not angry. He was completely indifferent to the pain. We could not understand this kind of a person. It appears as if he wasn't even feeling the pain. So immediately the king knew that something must be amiss somewhere. So the king decided to go quickly to the place. And when he got there, he realized the mistake he has made. But because Mandavyamuni was in control of his senses, he was not angered. The king, of course, begged for pardon to the sage and said it should be removed from the hanging and the arrow should be removed. But unfortunately, because the arrow has passed through his whole body, not all of the stick of the arrow could be removed. But anyway, to cut the long story short, we all have heard this story many times. The ascetic sage Mandavyamuni performed so many austerities after that, and when eventually he leaves the material body, he went straight to the abode of Yamaraj, because that was his anger. That because of his knowledge, he knew that karma or reward for actions is given by Yamaraj. So he decided to go to Yamaraj abode and ask, why was I punished unjustifiably? I was simply performing austerity, engaging in my religious duty. So why should I be given such a very severe punishment? And Yamaraj told him While you are a young boy, playing as a young boy, we all had this kind of experience when we were young, playing with that kind of experience. Yamara told Mandavamuni that you pierced a small insect with a straw of a grass. And when he did that, you incur a karma upon yourself. So therefore, for you to be free from that act, you have to also go through that experience. That is why you were punished in that way. And Mandavamuni anger aroused beyond. Then he was able to express his anger because now he's seen the culprit. And with his ascetic power, he told Jamaraj, he said, what kind of a giver of justice are you? That you know that I was just a young boy. And haven't you read as the Dharma, as the controller of Dharma, that a child before the age of 14 should never be punished for his misdoing because he is not able to fully take control of his activities. Say, but anyway, for me to have gone through that, I'm going to curse you. So Mandavamuni places a curse on Yamaraj. That for what you have done, to have done this to me, you will take birth in the material world. And when you take birth in the material world, you will also go through a miserable situation. Not just you take birth, but you'll be giving birth to in a very, very low, through a very low birth. So this is the story of the personality Vidura. So Vidura, in actuality, is Dharmaraj or Yamaraj himself. But as a result of that cause by Mandavamuni, he was put into that situation. And this gives a whole lot of lessons in our modern times. And the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna told Arjuna that intricacies of action and inactions are very delicate. So Vidura wasn't just an ordinary personality, and because of the personality he is, that is why he's referred to. Actually, the name Vidura means, literally, the name Vidura means one who is wise. He's not just an ordinary personality. So we see in the life of Vidura, because he's Dharmaraj personified himself, he exhibited that quality even when he appears here. And that speaks a volume. When we see a great personality, when they descend to this material world, they do not act like ordinary personalities. Of course, the whole of the Leelas of the Mahabharata is the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Vidura, who is Yamaraj, engages in, even while he was in that body, there's a whole lot about the story of his mother giving birth to him. But we all are familiar with this story. His mother, who is the maid servant of Ambika. And there's a whole lot of story from the story of Shantanu. We all have read this story many times. But the lesson there is this, that as we take birth in these bodies, in this material world, everyone is carrying the traits of his previous lives. But the difference between our lives and the lives of the great personality is this, that because they are direct representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they exhibit an unusual, unequal characters. So here in the text, it is said that Vidura he was so respected. But despite the fact, yesterday, Ishwara Prabhu was giving several stories about his qualities and how he was instructing the Dhritarashtra. But here in this verse, it is explained that Vidura, because of his personality, he was advising Duryodhana. And Prabhupada said in the purport that giving counsel, good counsel to a foolish person causes such a person to be angry. When you advise a person who is intelligent, he reasons because he's in control of his senses. The symptom of a person who is godas or the servant of the senses is that when you give such a person a good advice, he becomes angry naturally. A person who is wise, who is in the under the even who is not fully control of his senses, who is in the mode of goodness, he thinks before responding. Of course, the great personalities, when they hear good advice, they appreciate the giver of such a good advice. But Duryodhana is another powerful character in the Mahabharata. And he could not appreciate. Why was he not able to appreciate the advice of Vidura? Because of his association. So therefore, like Englishman says, show me who your friend is, and I tell you who you are. And that is why in the all of the Vedic scriptures and all scriptures, revealed scriptures, the importance of association is glorified. Rishabhadev, in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in text number 2 and 3, he was instructing his 100 children. Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahu Vimukte. Tamo Dwaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangam. Antas Te Samashita Prasanta. Vimaya Surida Sadavo Yehe. He is advancing is emphasizing the importance of association. That one can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. These personalities are impersonalists and devotees. Whether one wants to merge into the Lord's existence or wants to associate with the personality of Godhead, one should render service to Mahatmas. For those who are not interested in such activities or who associate with people fond of women and sex, the path to hell is wide open. And when we look at the purport of that text, Prabhupada was given glorification. Prabhupada explained in the purport to that text 552 that the human body is like a junction. One may either take the path of liberation or take the bad path leading to hellish condition. And how one can actually become liberated or go to hellish planet is described in these words of Rishabhadev. It is simply by the kind of association one takes. So everything that we have is what we associate with. Thank you for bringing it up. So one is a product of what he associates with. But the interesting part of this is this, that association does not actually start from the when we talk about association, most often time we look at association from a physical part of reality. But association starts actually from the mind, because the closest to the soul is the mind. So Krishna says, Mamaivam so jivalu ke jivabuta sanatana manashankshantridiyani prakististani korshati. That the living entity is eternal part and parcel. But because of his association with the mind, he's suffering like anything. So the kind of association we get externally is dependent on the kind of association that our mind, our senses are associating with. When a person associates with worldly songs, worldly women, and worldly activities with the mind and the senses, automatically is action, because, as Gurudev used to often quote, that we wash our thoughts, which is executed with the mind, because they become our word. And we wash our words because they become our actions. So the most important association starts with the mind. So what the mind is fed with is what develops into what is externally associated with. One cannot externally associate with a great personality, a great soul. One cannot associate with Bhagavatam, the revealed scriptures. One cannot associate with holy people, holy personality, if his mind is associated with materially worldly engagement. And that is why the Vaishnavas, according to the regulatory principles, are advised to even desist from hearing the mundane talk of mundane people. So for one to externally be able to free ourselves from mundane association, he has to, from the internal consciousness, through the mind, disassociate himself from worldly engagement. One does not engage in illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, and all kinds of forms of sinful activities externally without first doing them internally. All external activities happen first in the mind. And so therefore, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, he gave a whole lecture to Arjuna about the mind, how powerful the mind is. And even the Englishman says that whatever the mind can conceive, the mind can achieve it. So in other words, what the mind constantly thinks about, excuse me, the mind becomes that. So each and every one of us on the path of devotional service, when we look back at our devotional life beginning, we realize that a level of conscious mind engagement is going on. Thank you very much, Sadi Fugu. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest of enemy. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. And Krishna continues several verses in this beginning of the chapter 6. It says that a person is said to have established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stone, or gold, as the same. So this is the real association. The association is, Krishna continues, thank you. The all of existence, our existence is determined by what our mind is constantly thinking about. So therefore, one of the greatest mistakes, 90% or even more than 90% of sadhaka or devotees, even in the part of devotional service, makes is that they are thinking about what they want. Generally, maybe I'll express this in a more practical way. Everybody wants Krishna. But Krishna is beyond the reach of the mind, the senses. The ultimate goal of devotional service, I was having an interview recently on one media platform, And then the interviewer was asking me a question. He said, so in the part of your religion, what is your ultimate goal? And I reserved back and I said, well, you have asked a very deep question, although it sounds very simple to you. He said, please, let me know about this. I said, the challenge is that on the part of my religious practice, I really actually don't want anything. I don't want anything. I don't want to attain anything. And he was looking at me. He said, what do you mean by this? I said, because the greatest reason why we could not get the association of God is because we want to get God, but we are thinking of getting God in a particular way that is conditioned to our mind. So on the part of bhakti, on the part of devotional service, a devotee doesn't want anything. And that is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna Bhakta Nishkami, Ataiva Asanta, Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami, Sakale Asanta. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he explained that the greatest misgiving for a person on the part of devotional service, even when one has attained the platform of a sannyasi, is what is called pratishta. The greatest straw, the last greatest straw of freedom is one to get freed from the distinction, desire for distinction and honor, fame, distinction, adoration. And these are the things that attract the mind generally, because the mind is, although it's subtle, but the mind is material. So naturally, the mind is attracted to material things. So Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he explains in his Bhakti Tattva Viveka that one has to, after arising, practicing devotional life for several lifetimes, the last straw, the last misgiving that one gets before, we all know the 14 stages. In some cases, sometimes it is described as 9 stages of devotional development. Because before, when we talk about anatta nivriti, initially, sometimes it is seen as a very simple thing. But one cannot rise above anatta nivriti when he has not given up what is called pratishta in Vedic language, or desire for honor and distinction. And this is what the mind is naturally attracted to. Whether one has become a yogi or one has become elevated in devotional life, one is always deceived by the mind. And that is why the mind is such a very, very greatest of enemy when it's not under the control of the soul. The whole process of devotional life is to come to that state whereby the mind becomes the servant of the soul. But this is easier said than done. And we see this in our day-to-day life. It is, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that those who desire for bhukti, mukti, they will always remain restless. They become slaves to the desire of distinction, honor, and adoration. And even though in this age of Kali, the most simplest way of attaining God is given, Arainam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasti, Eva Nasti Gatia Yata, that the only name is simple. What is so difficult in chanting Hare Krishna? But the soul cannot, because the driver, this time, Ihan Raga, is so unfortunate because it cannot even chant the name. It is said by Srila Rupa Goswami that if one chants just once the only name of Krishna, it becomes liberated. But the living entities cannot chant the names of Krishna. Why are we still remaining in this material world? Because we have not been able to chant Krishna name purely. When one purely chants that name, Krishna, it becomes automatic immediately. It transcends from the material plane completely. It becomes merged into Brahma, into the Supreme. But it is very difficult to give up this disease of pratishta or desire for distinction and honor. And we see this. We can attest to it in our own different individual life. We see that nowadays in our modern times, someone is becoming a sannyasi or a guru. And the moment any small thing is done, he said, see, he's disrespecting me. He's making offenses against me. Because he is so much influenced by that external ornaments. And that's why knowledge sometimes is also said to be very dangerous. Although knowledge is required to be able to attain Krishna, but it becomes also even a biggest danger. You see that in those early days, I would not mention names, but we've seen some sannyasis, just because they're not offered full or respectful obeisance, they become immediately angry. But he's a guru, he's a sannyasi. We've seen so many sages who are falling down as a result of what? Because they have not been able to overcome the association of the mind with desire for honor, distinctions. So it is said that it is extremely difficult to give up desire for distinction and honor. Le Chetan Mahaprabhu said that Trinada peace Nishina Taru api Saishnuna Abanina Manadena Kritaniya Sadahari. One cannot chant the holy name of the Lord unless develops the humility. And the moment one thinks that I'm something, I'm this, I'm that, it cannot. But all of this, so Duryodhana is attracted to personality like Karna, like Shakuni, is the deviant brothers, not because of external arrangement only, but because in the mind of this Duryodhana, the life, when we look back at the life, the previous life of Duryodhana, we can understand the personality of Duryodhana. Because that it is explained that Duryodhana is always, constantly, always desiring. His own primary goal is what? He wants just the kingdom. And because that is what is constantly going in his mind, so he's attracting the same situation. And in devotional life, we all are attracting different situations in our devotional life as a result of what is going on in our mind. One cannot experience anything externally miraculously. It all starts from the mind. So Duryodhana, association with Shakuni, Karna, and all are all as a result of the internal desire for position, for power, and that is manifesting in the kind of association that he is getting. And because of those associations, anything that goes against that association, it becomes very disturbing to him. So Prabhupada said in the purport that Duryodhana was so foolish that he dared to insult a personality like Vidura. Only a foolish man will see fire and openly put his hand into it and get burnt. Only a foolish person can do that. And Prabhupada explained in the purport, this is only due to his bad association. But association with Shakuni is external. But the greatest association that Duryodhana was carrying is his association of his mind with desire for power, for honor, for distinction without meriting them. So therefore, dear devotees, it is desirable to desire for Krishna to see us than trying to see Krishna. Most often times, we want to see Krishna, and that is where our challenges comes from. But a devotee, a true devotee, acts in such a way that Krishna wants to see the devotee. Vidura could not comprehend his wife's giving the peel of banana to Krishna. And there's so many nice pastimes and story in the Mahabharata, and that's why Mahabharata is so glorified. And this is why it is said that of the whole of the Vedic scriptures, as the 4 Vedas, put them on a side and put Mahabharata on one side, it will overweigh it because of that potency of Krishna's speech in the Mahabharata. Srila Vyasadeva gave what is required for us in Kali Yuga in the Mahabharata, and it is said to be the essence of all scriptures. And if you see any great personality in the world, even from the mundane world today, and you see them speak very extraordinarily, go and check. Just name any one person, individual in the world today who is intelligent, who has a very high-level character, who speaks very intelligently. Go and check their background. They have read Mahabharata. They have read the Bhagavad Gita. I can attest to this. We all can go onto Google and do a research. Just name any great personality. Go and name them. Whether they are identified as a Christian or a Muslim or whatever they identify with externally as a form of religion. But go and check their background. They have read a component of Mahabharata. That's how glorious this scripture is. So, therefore, dear devotees, the greatest misfortune of Duryodhana here is because of his association of his mind with the greatest disease of the conditions of Pratishta, desire for honor, distinction, adoration, power. And one can get freed from this easily, simply by taking the advice of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Bhakta Nishkama, Ataiva Asanta, Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami, Sakale Asanta. They will never be happy as long as they are bhuktis, they are muktis, they are jnanis. Only Krishna Bhakta. And what is the position of a Krishna Bhakta? He has no desire for nothing. He just remains in his constitutional duty as a servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the Supreme Personality of God. He doesn't want anything. Of course, Srila Prabhupada encourages us in the beginning of our devotional service, we should develop some desire to have Krishna. And that is not wrong. But we have to gradually come to that platform whereby we do not want anything. We have seen many devotees. When we were young, there's one of my very good friends, Bhakta Jeremiah. He gave me so many headache while we were Bhakta. He made me popular, but indirectly. He would always quarrel with me. And Bhakta Jeremiah, at one point, I said, you know, I'm going to show you, I'm going out there. I'm going to go and make so much money. And when I make so much money, I will spread this Krishna consciousness like anything. I will build so many temples. I will do so many wonderful things. But I've not seen him for over 30 years now. I don't even know where he is, whether he's still alive or not. Don't desire for Krishna. Desire for Krishna to want to see you. So I'll stop on this point and open up for conversation, for discussions, question and answer, comments, contributions, corrections in the course of the delivery. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. And maybe in the course of the discussion, if time permits, we can do some little glorification of Srila Bhakti Swami Maharaj, by whose mercy we're here, opening our mouth, trying to speak the glories of the Supreme Personality of God. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, His Grace, Salika Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Of course, it's not surprising to hear you speak the way you spoke. You always speak beautifully and from the heart. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, realizations, comments, and like the speaker said, corrections, you are kindly invited to unmute and go ahead and speak or ask your question. Prabhuji, yesterday, like you were saying, we had His Grace Ishara Prabhu speak. He spoke on text 13, and you did 14 today. Text 13 was talking about Vidura asking Dhritarashtra to kick Duryodhana out of the house because he is not taking good advice. Here today also, we are saying that Srila Prabhupada is saying in the paper, the first sentence, that it is said that giving good counsel to a foolish person causes the fool to become angry. Now, it is the fool who is going to act foolish and therefore needs advice. Now, if we are told that if you give advice to a foolish person, if you give a good counsel to a foolish person, is going to get angry, so you don't have to, then how is this foolish individual going to be helped? If Dhritarashtra kicked Duryodhana out, then how is he going to be helped? So my question in brief is that we know that these people are a nuisance, and so we want to get rid of them. But if we get rid of them, how are they going to be helped? That's my question.
Very beautiful question. Thank you very much, Hari Prabhu. It is said in the pedagogy of education, there are three basic different ways of teaching. The highest of them is to give good advice to an ignorant person. But not everybody is fortunate enough, because it takes a fortunate person, it takes an intelligent person to take good advice. So, therefore, in teaching, one should not strive to teach a foolish person by talking to such a person. I have one disciple. I call it I disciple because she calls me his teacher. She calls me a teacher. Long story how she came to be. But one thing about this particular person is that whenever she's come to me, she will lament and lament and lament and lament and lament and lament and lament. And when I want to start giving some advice, he said, please, don't tell me about that God. But she has become attracted to me because of the godly qualities. But said, no, don't talk to me about God. And one time I asked her, okay, if I don't tell you about God, so what should I tell you about? I said, okay, let me give examples of some great personalities. He said, no, don't tell me about a great personality. I don't want to hear about great personalities. I said, okay, you have told me you are in distress. You are distressed because you have a challenge, and you are telling it to me. And the proven means of relieving stress is to hear about God, which is the ultimate. You don't want that, to meditate on God. Okay, inspiration from great personalities. You say you don't want that. So what do you want me to talk? Who do you want me to talk about? He said I should talk about anything. I said, okay, should I talk about you? He said, no, don't talk about me. I don't want you to talk about me. I said, then, what should I talk about? Who should I talk about? Because in any case, you need medication. So what kind of medication should I give you? I cannot talk about God. I cannot talk about great personality. I cannot even talk about you. So what should I talk about? Then he said, don't talk about anything. Don't talk about anything. So I kept silent. And she kept on talking for some time. And after talking for some time, I just kept silent. He said, are you hearing me? I said, yes, I'm hearing you. He said, but I'm not saying anything. I said, what should I say? You said whatever I know of saying, you said I should not say. So what should I say to you? So the best thing is just what you are telling me indirectly is that I should just listen to whatever you are saying. So instead of me talking, so you continue the talking, I listen to you. So she became uncomfortable. That's the point I'm trying to make. She became very uncomfortable when I was no longer talking. So sometimes you have to teach someone by not talking. And when we growing up as a child, our parents ask a way of giving knowledge, which is without talking, they give you signs, bodily signs, and you immediately understand what they are saying. But these are general answers to your questions. According to the Acharyas, the devotees of the Lord are extremely very, very merciful. So even when the foolish person doesn't want to be talked to, still they go ahead and talk. And that is the special qualification of a devotee of the Lord. That even when the foolish person doesn't want to hear, still they go ahead and try to talk. But they talk in such a way that will not agitate their mind. So Srila Prabhupada said the bitter truth should be spoken in a sweet manner, in such a way that the foolish person can be helped. But in particularly in the context of Vidura speaking to Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, it's a different thing entirely because it is the pastimes of the Lord. In such a case, it is not, we cannot compare it with our mundane interrelationship because the Lord already knows. I think maybe one speaker was mentioning that, I don't know whether I had it correctly, maybe a day or 2 days before. When Lord Krishna went as a messenger of peace, Krishna already knew that Dhritarashtra was not going to hear. He knew that Duryodhana would not listen to the voice of good advice. But Krishna went all the same to give. Why? Because Krishna wanted him to be the cause of his own fall. So it was so that there will not be excuse for his not being protected. So in the pastimes of the Lord, it's completely different when we relate it to our mundane interrelationships. But materially, the best form of speaking to a foolish person is silence. A foolish person learns very fast when you don't speak to him or her. But as a devotee, even when the non-devotees doesn't want to hear, we still broadcast the holy name of the Lord. And that is why in Kali Yuga, it is said because people are completely averse to spirituality. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised, just chant the holy name. Whether they want or they do not want, they will hear the holy name and they will start getting purified. And when after so many years or births of hearing that such a holy name, they will become purified, they acquire punya karma enough to be able to listen. And that is what Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita 7:28. Yesham tu antagata papam gena mam punya karma namte dwanda venimukta bajat mam dulavrata. So such foolish person, you can help them simply by just chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And that's what I did for that, my friend. And I think it has been working from my personal experience. So nowadays, I don't talk to her any longer. So when after studying her for some time, so I told her, I said, well, you want me to help you, but you don't want me to speak. So I will suggest one medication, if you can hear that. She said what? I said we'll have a 30-minute section twice in a week. Don't talk. I won't talk to you. Just listen. Just mute your voice. I will do the chanting. And I don't want to call your name. I don't want to tell you anything. Just listen to the. So I will chant for 30 minutes and she will listen. And then I think it has worked in such a way because my experience is that after about 6 months or so, thereabout that we've been doing that. Recently now, you will ask me, give me some references about association from the scriptures. She will ask me. Okay. So I started giving her some references gradually. So Lord Chita Mahaprabhu's prescription is that we should just give the holy name for those who are foolish and just leave them to acquire that punya karma or pious credit to the level that they can be able to get purified enough to hear spiritual wisdom. I don't know whether I answered your question, Prabhu.
Yes, you did. Yeah, I appreciate the answer very much. Thank you. Madhavan Prabhu, please give me unmute. Madhavan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Oh glory, oh glory. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for giving us this class today. You really made our day. You make it worthwhile. So thank you very much. So in the course of answering Prabhu Sadi's question, you mentioned just as you concluded your story about your friend, you said we should silence is the best, which is good, and that we should give her the ordinary. But somehow, it doesn't want to hear that name. So my own advice is that we say don't push it, don't force it, let it happen naturally. You know, as a devotee, even though you are not speaking, but your action is speaking for you. You are maintaining your principles, the vegetarian, and you know, you are fully engaged in devotional service. And somehow or the other, it's your friend. You know, a friend is just on different level. I have some friends like that. They are Christians, but they are not inimical. We are friends. They are never inimical. Some of them, after they will see me immediately after a temple program. They will wait for me. So when we finish program, then we continue. You know, recently I have some problems, financial problems. It was this type of friend that helped me financially, you know, without even preaching to them or without saying anything. They were eager to help me. They understand the situation. This guy needs some financial assistance. The assistance I got from my godbrother was good also. They give me some mantras. My godbrother gave me some mantras, very powerful mantras. Which, of course, will eventually solve my problem. But my immediate problems were solved by this, my friend. You know, so she's not inimical with you. She will see that you're a good person. But how you become a good person, she couldn't understand. So, you know, as just like, you know, somebody who's a Christian, who believes a very strong Christian, no other name except Jesus. We don't want to hear any other thing. But in due course of time, by studying you very much, out of curiosity, you should know that, you know, something is behind your activity. And of course, without putting any pressure on our own, she will change. One day we will meet another person other than you who's also interested in this same thing you are doing. And then you now appreciate that person that come back to you, you know. So that's the way Krishna will do it. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for your comments. Yeah, devotees has to, Srila Prabhupada said we have to be very smart in the process of preaching and be so expert to the extent that we know how to relate to individuals. Prabhupada exhibited that. That sometimes Prabhupada is preaching, somebody will ask question, Prabhupada will smash the person as a reporter, not necessarily a devotee. I'm talking of those who are not regular devotees. Prabhupada, some people will come, Prabhupada will outrightly smash them. And some will come, Prabhupada will give them so much pamper that the devotees themselves will become bewildered and say, Prabhupada, what are you saying? It will only remain for them to challenge Prabhupada in the course of that conversation. But after the person has left, they will ask Prabhupada, but Prabhupada, why are you telling this person like this? And Prabhupada will explain to them why he was handling that particular person in that way. When Prabhupada met George Harrison and the Beatles, when he was, the way he was relating with them, not many devotees could understand his relationship with them. So Prabhupada taught us by his practical example how to preach to individual or different personalities according to their mood. And that is what is a real qualification of a preacher, that he must be able to know how to speak different time. Our Guru Maharaj is an expert in doing that. When the Guru Dev is speaking to business people, he will speak in such a way that you will start wondering whether he's a businessman himself. When he's speaking to medical people, he will start speaking in such a way that you'll be thinking maybe he studied medicine. So that's because we have a rich wealth of knowledge in the Vedic scripture. So that is what makes us an expert devotee, preacher in Krishna consciousness.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Well, Hare Krishna. Thank you for the question, Madhavan Prabhu and Sadhika Prabhu. Thank you for the answer and response. Anyone else with something to share or ask?
Govinda Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Shri Sadhika Prabhu, if you may help me with this confusion I have about Duryodhan and Bhima. No, Bhima and Duryodhan, they fought, and Bhima actually killed Duryodhan. Now, when Bhima and Duryodhan were fighting, Krishna signaled to to Bhima, that don't forget about his thigh. Don't forget about his thigh. And we know the story how Duryodhan's mother Gandhari had invited Duryodhan, and she had asked him to come to him naked. And Krishna interrupted that, how can you go see your mother naked as a matured man? So Duryodhan covered his private area, which covered part of his thigh. And therefore it is said that when Gandhari opened her eyes, she kind of empowered Duryodhan, but the part that was covered did not get empowered. There is also a story that Maitreya, whom we are reading about in this particular chapter, also went to Hastinapur to advise Duryodhan. And Duryodhan did not take his advice well, like Srila Prabhupada was saying in the purport. So Duryodhan was so angry, and he was sitting down and then tapping his thigh. And so Maitreya became angry and then cursed him that would be the cause of his death. Now, with all these confirmation of this, that, all talking about the tie, which actually was the reason that Duryodhana's tie was broken and was killed by Bhima. Was it because Krishna told him to do that, or was it because Gandhari could not protect that, or was it because Maitreya cursed him that is how he's going to die? Which is which?
Thank you very much for these nice stories you have brought out. And we can discuss this for a whole 1 year. We will not finish the story, because if we start going back to the stories of each of these stories that you pointed to, they have a whole lot of pastimes behind them that made them to happen the way they happen. But this summary of all of the situation that happened that led to Duryodhana dying by that cause is that when Krishna desires something, no one can contend it. Ultimately, Krishna's will will surpass in the end. So for Krishna to perform his lila, he will do so many things within the same situation. And that is why himself told Arjuna that intricacies of karma is difficult to understand, because Krishna in one activities will fulfill so many desires. Krishna telling, I was reading one article on Quora recently, and somebody was asking the question, is Krishna actually a bad character or a good character in Mahabharata? And the person was asking the question from the background of so many tricks Krishna played in the course of the story of the Mahabharata. One of them is the one you are referencing, where Krishna instigated Gandhari, Duryodhana, and even Bhima during the final stage. So because Krishna wants to fulfill so many things in one situation, and that is why it is said that the intricacies of action and inaction is very difficult for the ordinary conditioned mind to understand. One cannot understand it. So therefore, the only saving grace for any intelligent person is to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The pastimes of grandfather Bhishma Dev and Amba. Bhishma Dev did what is recognized in the Vedic way of marriage, to get to marry in the way he took the 3 sisters, and he defeated all of the princes. But that also led to the Bhishma Dev's being cause of death being by what's her name now?
Did you mean Pandu?
No. Amba when she took bath again.
Because we know Bhishma was a Nashtika Brahmachari.
Yeah, Bhishma. It didn't matter. Bhishma Dev took Amba for his brothers, 3 brothers, Ambalika, and the 3 of them. He took them. He was the one that brought them for his wife. What is their names now? Vishishavriya. What is his name? I'm trying to remember a name. What's that name? Shikandi. Thank you very much for helping me. Shikandi. So thank you very much for helping me. So it's the story of Shikandi. So Bhishma Dev refuses to fight, and it was his cause of death. But when you look from the Vedic standard, what Bhishma Dev, the way he took Ambalika and the 3 sisters, was recognized by Vedic, one of the Vedic standard of marriage. But the reaction was that it has to be the cause of his death. So when you look at that story from where it started to the time of the end of Bhishma Dev, so you start wondering, was it wrong to follow the Vedic injunction sometimes? It becomes confusing, just like you were saying. It can be very confusing when one wants to understand the actions and of whatever is happening in our materials, with our material sense. It's very difficult. And that's what Krishna says in 15:15 of the Bhagavad Gita, that of all the Vedas, I'm to be known. I'm the compiler of the Vedas. So when one tries to understand the activities of Krishna or his pastimes by material understanding, the more one tries to understand, the more one becomes bewildered, because they are very difficult to understand. I just went a week ago to do some cremation ceremony. So I was, one of my friend, we were talking, and he called me almost in the middle of the prayers. I couldn't answer the call. So after that, I called back and I said, well, I went for a cremation ceremony of one of my members. And he said, but sometimes I can't understand this. How can somebody have suffered and died already, and you are still suffering the person by burning his body? Because he couldn't understand. So the person is already suffered. He has died. And instead of you to be compassionate to him and then pamper the body and then keep it very nicely, you still go ahead and burn it. He said, I can't, sometimes these are some of these, I cannot understand about this, your faith. So that is from the grossest. But for a devotee, immediately when you hear that, you can understand the need, the reasons behind cremation. So in the same way, when we look at the Vedic stories, the scriptural stories, and that is why those devotees who are experts, who have studied the Mahabharata very elaborately, when they speak, sometimes it resonates with the heart because you hear the stories. Recently, I was listening to the story of Ravana, how his lineage. I was listening to the stories of 3-4 generations before Ravana. And when you listen to these stories, they come together to give you a kind of a sense of reasoning. And that is why Krishna is saying that is said to be what? Translogical. Logic means ability to be able to explain something based on logic, something to give a logical conclusion. But Krishna is translogical. That is, in whose presence logic cannot stand. Excuse me. So when it comes to Krishna's lila, Krishna's activities, Krishna's pastimes, unless we just submit ourselves to the statement of the Acharya and Krishna himself, they can be very confusing because they are beyond the understanding of human, because we can only see, if we are so powerful, even as a yogi, see maybe about 5, 10, 8 lifetimes of a person. But Krishna sees a million lifetimes of the soul. What has led that soul into that body? And as we talked at the beginning of this class, talking about Vidura, one will wonder why among the 3 brothers, why Vidura has to be the most intelligent, the most revered among the 3 brothers. But when you look at the story behind Vidura, you realize that he wasn't just a mere person born of a maidservant. He was a personality, and it was a reason that brought him to be born in that situation. When we look at the story of the Bhishma Dev, also of the story of the 8 verses, and Vasishta stealing and Nandini, and all of these stories, when you look at all of these stories, it brings about sense of understanding. But unless one understands the background, it cannot be able to make sense out of some of Krishna's pastimes. So that is why the leelas of the Lord cannot be understood. So in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15. I think that's chapter 15, text number 19. Bring that verse out. I'm trying to remember the Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, text number 19. Krishna said to Arjuna, that one who understands me, he understands everything. So the whole idea is to understand Krishna. And understanding Krishna is not a small task. 15:19. I'm trying to remember the verse. Yeah. Yes, Yomam Ivam Asamudo. Janati Purushotamam Sasavavid Vavaji. Sarvabhavena Bharat. The translation. Whoever knows me as Supreme Personality of God without doubting is in awe of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharat. So the ultimate is to understand Krishna. One cannot understand the activities of Krishna without knowing Krishna.
Well, thank you so much for the answer. But the answer you gave to my question reminds me of a statement. We say that Maharaj Yudhishthira was a person who was born without enemy. He had no enemy. His enemy was not yet born. In the scriptures, it is also said that no one is born anyone's enemy. But this story you just narrated, we see that Amber, who ended her life, vowed to take a revenge on Bhishma. And so now she appeared as Shikandi. So how do we contrast that with the statement that no one is born anyone's enemy? When Shikandi, as soon as Shikandi was born, Bhishma already had an enemy.
Exactly. Devi Esa Guna Mayi, Mama Maya Duratya, Mamevayi, Papa Diante, Mayami Tam Tarantite. That's the Krishna statement. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult. The moment the Jiva Atma comes under the influence of the three modes of material nature, his activities are completely covered by the influence of the three modes. And because of the influence of the three modes, although the soul has no enemy, neither is it the enemy of anybody, but because it's acting under the influence of the modes of material nature, under the influence of the material nature, he has that cycle of conception of enemy, friend, brother, uncle. And that is the whole essence of, that's all what is said to be material life. Material life is the covering of the three modes of material nature. So in the real sense, on the spiritual platform, on the soul platform, the soul has no enemy. He has no friend. But the moment it comes under the influence of the three modes of material nature, so the conception of enemy, friends are all already there. So on the spiritual platform, the soul has no enemy. But the moment it comes into the body, or this deha, the enemy, it automatically it has enemy. It cannot be free from it because it's under the influence of the three modes. Three modes is what controls the karma of the living entities. So because the soul, due to its desire, Bhagavad Gita 7:26, I think that's the verse. Bhagavad Gita 7:26. Can you bring out the verse? Yes. 7:26. No, this is not the verse I wanted to. 7:28. No, 7:27. Sorry, 7:27. The next verse. The next verse. Sorry. Isha dusha samuti na danda muhena Bharat. Sarva Bhutani Samuhaham Sarge Yanti Paranta Pa. The living entity in this material world, whether from the Brahma to the lowest entity, O sign of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by the dualities arising from desire and age. So this is where the problem lies. The moment we come into this, we take this material body, so the body, that conception of enemy, friend, develops immediately. So Bhishma, Yudhishthira is said to be one who is born without any enemy. Of course, the pastimes of the personalities who are associates of the Lord, who came to perform a pastimes, cannot be considered to that of ordinary conditions. So, but the reality is that from Brahma to the lowest living entities, the moment we take this material body, then this conception of enemy, friend, brother, uncle, wife, sister, they all naturally manifest. But on the spiritual platform, the soul is completely transcendental to all of these designation. He has no enemy, he has no friend. It's only as a result of the influence of the three modes of material nature that one consider enemy, friendship, and all of those designations.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the answer, of course, as always. Anyone else, before we bring this to a close, but before we bring that to a close, well, we have, okay, Shumabara Acharya Prabhu, please you may unmute.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the Asana of the world. Well, just a little contribution to the question asked by Sadi. The case of Duryodhana is not the only one where there seem to be multiple reasons or multiple causes for the last straw. We find in the case of Karna, and there's another example that came to my mind, just escaped. So in the case of Karna, when Arjun killed Karna, he was telling Krishna that I had to kill my brother because of you.
Yes.
And Krishna said, no, you got it wrong. There are many other reasons why Karna had to die. And Krishna started stating all the reasons. First, it was caused by his guru, Parasuram. It was caused by a Brahmana, that his chariot will get stuck and he will forget, the mantras. His own mother, Kunti, also prayed, that Karna will not be able to have any victory over the other brothers. So so many things were there. Indra also removed all his powers, his protection that he was born with. Indra came and begged and removed all of them. So Krishna said, look, Karna was already destined to die by so many other factors, behind him. So in the case of Duryodhana, it's also a similar case that he had also had so many, causes leading to his final downfall. So I think it's a good lesson for us, because sometimes when we see somebody going through or somebody gone down in an unfortunate way, and we want to relate that to the immediate. We want to relate that to the immediate effect, and forgetting that there might have been many other causes. So like in my tradition, the Yorubas, they have a saying, that means that you've been doing it So if this finally happens, that is the result of all what has been accumulating. So I think it's a good lesson for us, from the Vedic stories, how to see that if anything happens to somebody, we should not just look at the immediate result or the immediate effect or immediate cause. Immediate cause. That means that was just the last straw. His cup has got filled at that point. So I think that is the lesson. And we don't necessarily have to think which of these has caused it. All of them cause it. All of them come accumulate, to fill the cup for that punishment. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. So much. Srimad Prabhu for that comment. That's why a Vedic student of Bhagavad Gita is said to be wise, because Krishna has given answers to everything. To buttress your point, in the 18th chapter, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, I think from the 18, 13, 14, and moving forward, Krishna told that there are many factors that leads to actions. When we see any actions comes into play, we should look at the factors that led to that action are not just the immediate actions, but several cumulative actions. That is what Bhagavad Gita tells us. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, 13, 14, and Krishna explains that Panchataini Mahabahu Karamani Nibodhaname Sankhya Kriyante Uktani Siddhaye Sarva Karmanam. That Almighty Arjuna, according to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. Now learn of this from me. And then he goes to the next to explain that. Yeah, thank you, Zadi, for bringing it up. So he said the place of action, number 1, that's the body. The performer, 2, the various senses, number 3, the many different kinds of endeavor, 4, and ultimately the super soul. These are the 5 factors that leads to action that we see. So, but one who is not a student of Bhagavad Gita will not be able to explain. And that's why devotee sees differently, because he recognizes all of these 5 factors that brings about the cause of action. So when we see any of the actions that happens in our lives, in the lives of other persons, we immediately, a devotee looks back and said, okay, the person, the body in which that action is going on, who is the performer of that particular action, and the senses that are involved and all of that. So these 5 factors, they lead to every action that we see. So actions are not caused by just one simple thing. And that is why sometimes it is funny when anything happens in the society. I laughed sarcastically when the government will say, we're looking into the remote causes of all of this. We'll find the remote cause. And I start laughing and I say, what is the remote cause they want to find? They cannot even see the back of their hand that they want to find the remote causes. They will not get to the remote cause. Only a devotee can tell the remote cause of any action that goes on. The world is suffering like anything today, and I tend to feel so much bliss these days because of the level of preaching that we are putting to do globally. Thanks to our Guru Maharaj for giving us this impetus and empowerment. And when you look at the global space, people are struggling like anything. They're doing so many seminars and workshops. They're doing so many conferences trying to solve the problem of the world. And when they want to find, their solutions to solving the problems are so shallow. And when I listen to them, I just laugh. So sometimes, I give one example. We're supposed to, in one of the United Nations organizations that we're working with, so we're supposed to start a global campaign for 2030. That is in the next 6 years. We're trying to start a campaign that will start maybe later part of this year. And I was one of the participants in the team that was supposed to develop the strategic proposal on how to do that. So people were talking so many things, then big professors, big PhD holders, and they're talking so many things around And I just was laughing. So when I get to a point, I said, well, we've spoken enough English. The reality is that until and when there is consciousness of the living entities are raised to a particular level, you cannot reduce the violence, because these violences are not caused by these causes that you are calling remote causes, poverty. What is causing poverty? What are the factors that led to somebody becoming poverty-stricken? Why is somebody born rich when somebody is born poor? I say you are just looking at a poverty-stricken person. You are looking at politicians as the cause of the problem. But these are all secondary causes. There are remote causes, and the remote causes, real remote causes, is as a result of the consciousness of living entities that is attracting they are the force of attraction to all of this. And that was part of the conversation I was sharing yesterday when Srila Prabhu was giving class. That all these things are not determined by all of these things. Yes, these things are secondary reasons why we see. Yes, poverty makes some bad times. People commit crimes. So greed makes somebody. But what is the cause of greed? How does greed develop? They cannot tell this. So that is the beauty of devotional service. Devotional service gives us in-depth knowledge of understanding of things as they are. And that is why we have a lot of work to do as devotees globally, because the world is suffering like anything, and they cannot find the solution. The solution lies in the hands of the devotees. And that's why Prabhupada said, given the whole of this planet, in 18 days, he can turn it around, because the solution is there. We have everything. That we know the remote causes, we know the secondary causes, we know the end causes of everything. And then if we can leave this, we can impact it into others. Unfortunately, we have not even been able to fully exhibit that even in our own community. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. His Grace Shumavaracharya Prabhu. One devotee friend used to tell me, his father used to tell him that anytime you find two people having a disagreement, do not ask what is happening, but rather you should ask what happened the other day. Because it is not an immediate thing that has led to the disagreement. Salika Prabhu, I don't know, West Africa, whether the TT day for Gurudev's disappearance is today. Here, it's tomorrow.
No,
Tomorrow,
it's not
Friday.
today. No, I'm talking about the calendar day. The calendar day is 27th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was talking about the calendar day.
Okay, so we'll play a very brief memories of His Holiness Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj, which is about 6 minutes, by one of his dearmost God brothers, and then we'll bring this to a close finally.
Thank you so much.
So, we humbly request that you stay and listen to this it's just about 6 minutes. Hare Krishna.
I'm very happy to share with you 3 events which impacted me very much in relationship to His Holiness Bhakti-tirtha Maharaj. The first one is during a Russian festival in Dynamorsk. It was at the time when we had many visitors during the festival, and there were maybe 7,000 devotees dancing in the kirtan, and Bhakti-tirtha Maharaj danced so exuberantly that he soon made a spark fly from him, which fired up or incinerated the whole crowd. We soon found ourselves dancing like this, joyously smiling like this. And this was a wave of 7,000 people going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it was up to me at the end to give prizes. I think Jayapataka Maharaj won the contest in the churning Mandara mountain style, but Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj won in the category of the fire dance. He was fired up, the sparks were flying. Now during this festival, I noticed that Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was not there during the day. He only was there in the morning and in the evening, and maybe there was one seminar a little far away, but I could never meet up with him, although we are friends and we would always take time to share personally, but I couldn't find him until I found out he was preaching in the morning, during the day in one seminar of his, and then in the evening he was in the evening program. During the rest of the day he would go to towns and talk to mayors, he would talk to the press, he would discuss educational policies with the Minister of Education. He was always preaching, and I think that is one of the specialities of his. He was extremely concerned about caring for our devotees, but he was equally concerned about bringing the devotional message across to the leaders of state. And in that category, he was really 10 years, maybe 15 years ahead of his time. He would cultivate everywhere where he was ministers of state, the key figures in education, art, etc. He would somehow find them, and with his intelligent personality, he knows a lot, he would attract these people. I think he was one of the first devotees who ever got the idea to appear regularly on TV, not ISKCON TV, but the secular TV channels. He really was out there with the people, having new ideas on the level of these people. What could Krishna consciousness do in order to prevent crimes? What could Krishna consciousness do to give guidelines for state people, ministers and heads of state? What could Krishna consciousness do for those who were addicted to unhealthy lifestyles and substances? He was always there and knew what to do. I know that he was, when I visited him in the Institute, IFAST it was called, Institute for Applied Spiritual Technology. When I visited him, I saw in the cellar a picture of his where he was dressed like an African chieftain. Very amazing dress. And I asked him, Maharaj, you are dressed in an unconventional way. We have not seen such dress in the Vaishnava circles. And he spoke to me. He said, for preaching, I would be prepared to be dressed in diapers and go on TV. Please understand, his what he did and what he did that was outside of our convention within the society was meant to really spread Krishna consciousness, and he was an educated person. He knew what was necessary to get to the people. Therefore, he was extremely successful in this field. But at the same time, he understood that he wanted to do something to maintain the devotees, and gave seminars how they could overcome their obstacles. But I still remember, I was thinking, where is Bhakti-tirtha Maharaj? I want to meet him. Only until I found out he was on this TV channel, he was on this with this mayor and so on. I was very awestruck.
His Holiness Bhakti-tirtha Swami Maharaj Ki
Jai.
Jai.
Well, Hare Krishna devotees, we thank you for staying back to listen to this transcendental pastimes of His Holiness Bhakti-tirtha Swami Maharaj. And Salika Prabhu, you are the speaker. If you have nothing else to say, maybe we'll bring this to a final closure.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that as we remember Srila Gurudev today, I want to say to devotees is that let us try as much as possible in our devotional service. That has been my mantra since the morning. That's my meditation, and I'm sharing it. That Krishna gives me the ability to walk in such a way that Krishna's look out for me and not trying to look out for Krishna because it's beyond my reach. So I'm praying that Krishna, that's been my prayer since morning, and I'm sharing with devotees. I'm praying that Krishna, please help me to condition my mind in such a way that I'll walk in such a way that Krishna will become attracted to me. Where is this soul that is so much depth in trying to serve me? And he will just pick me up and save me from this ocean of nescience. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So with that being said, we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, His Grace Salika Prabhu, and for the Lord bringing us all together to hear His pastimes and leelas. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama
Hare
Rama,
Hare.
Rama Hare.
Pancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya vacha Nitananda Vinabhyo Vaishnavibhyo Antakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. All bodies to Holy Salika Prabhu ki jai. All bodies
Jai, Shri Bhakti Maharaj Ki Jai.
jai.
Just talk to
Radhe
devotees.
Prabhu.